Gentlemen, please welcome onto stage the new chairman of Dunfermline Athletic, Mr. Bob Garmery.
I was waiting for my musical introduction there, boys. As chairman, I never ever thought I'd be able to say that. As chairman of Dunfermline Athletic Football Club, I would like to welcome you all here this evening. At this point, I would like to say a very special thank you to Bill Fletcher and all of the staff here at the Alhambra who have afforded us the opportunity to come to this wonderful venue to hold this event. And I have to say, freely given. So thanks very much, Bill. I would also like to thank all those Pars fans who have contributed to putting the event together. There are a great many, and I couldn't name them all, but thanks, guys, for all your work behind the scenes, and as the night goes on, you'll see the fruits of their labours. So thanks, boys, for that. Now, this evening is going to be split into two parts. The first part, which is about fundraising, and that will be a part of the programme that will be introduced by Jason Barber. I'm hoping there's going to be a slide up there in a minute that's going to show that. And the second part will be a Q&A session where the interim board, the general managers and the club manager will come up on the stage and try to answer any questions that you may have regarding Dunfermline Athletic Football Club and its future. As I say, oh, there you go. Exactly as predicted, a slide. So as I say, two parts to the programme, folks. And this night is all about how we keep the Pars. We've been through the phase of saving the Pars and buying the Pars. It's now about keeping the Pars. So if I could have the next slide, please. Just a wee bit of context to where we are. Dunfermline Athletic Football Club was purchased by Pars United on the 15th of October. We now need to rebuild Dunfermline Athletic Football Club as an inclusive, open and sustainable club. As I said, Buy the Pars is now complete. We've achieved our goal. The next goal we must achieve is to keep the Pars. And to do that, we need to create a lifeline of regular income to support Jim Jeffries and the wider club infrastructure. And that's the subject that Jason will coordinate the event tonight in talking about that regular income. Keep the Pars is undoubtedly the biggest challenge we now face, and we need everybody to contribute. We've got to acknowledge that what we have achieved has been truly remarkable. But we now need to move to a whole new level of fundraising to ensure that we create a sustainable club, a club that will form the basis upon which we can rebuild the Dunfermline Athletic Football Club that we consider appropriate. To do this, we cannot rely on the actions of a few, but rather we need to mobilise all of the supporters of Dunfermline Athletic Football Club to this cause. Ladies and gentlemen, I truly believe that if we all work together for the benefit of Dunfermline Athletic Football Club, then there is nothing that will stop us reaching the very pinnacle of Scottish football. The Pars fans have shown what they are capable of, and to ensure that the club survived was great. Now let us show what we can do to make this club great again. Now here are some of the things that we're going to do to help achieve that. We're going to have regular fundraising nights, such as Peyton's Premier's Pars, which will be held here. The St Andrew's Ceilidh, which I believe is on the 30th of November. Somebody's going to correct me if I've got that date wrong. We're going to look for more shareholders with a minimum amount reduced to £1,000. We want you to encourage more fans and friends along to East End Park for matches. Encourage fans to use the facilities at East End Park more on match days. However, we cannot rely anymore on donations. That will continue. Donations will be a part of it, but we must have this regular income. And as I say, that's a big part of this evening's event. Affordable subscription scheme will be set up for regular fans, remote fans and the wider community, and there will be prizes. I didn't say how big the prizes would be, but there will be prizes. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to the stage a man who's been a tower of strength throughout all of this. A man who, in many ways, came to our club and probably didn't expect to be dealing with all the problems he's had to put up with. But the one thing he has been throughout all of the difficulties we've faced, he's been a tower of strength. And I earnestly believe this is a man who will lead this club on the path to achieve the great things we all think it's possible to achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome to the stage the club manager of Dunfermline Athletic Football Club, Mr. Jim Jeffries.
I want to thank Bob for that introduction, but the first thing I would like to open up with is saying a huge thank you to every single one of you and all supporters who can't come along tonight for one fantastic effort in keeping this club alive. I speak on behalf of myself, the players and the staff who appreciate all the hard work. And the one thing, I don't want to be negative about it, but it is very difficult to save a football club, and you can be very proud that the supporters and the Para United's board have done that, but it takes a lot more than that, and that's why we're here tonight, to make sure that we continue to keep this club alive, because it'll take a fantastic effort to keep the club going in the right direction, and unfortunately in life that takes a lot of money to progress. But the one thing we can promise you is that we'll do it, you know, not with the same mistakes that was made the last time, trying to chase the dream, paying over the odds. It can bring you success in the short term, but sometimes there's a price to pay, and I think we're in that stage now. And we're on the recovery, and we'll make sure that we'll go up the right way, doing it the right way. And when we get back there to the Premier League, we'll be staying there and not just going up and down like I go here. And when I first came in, to the job after the initial 8 games in the Premier League, I sat down with the board and I says to them, there's 2 ways we can do it, and I'm quite happy to go both ways. One of them was to continue bringing in maybe the experienced players to try and get the club back up to the top, which sometimes, you have to pay and get experienced players, know what they're doing. And one of them said a very significant thing that night. They said, we did that the last time, cost us a fortune, and it took us 4 years to get back. I says, well, the other way you can do is you can go about it and look at a young side, identify 1 or 2 players in the lower leagues that I had spotted through my time, and try and capitalise on a youth programme that Stephen Wright had been trying to get started, and it was in its infancy. But the one big major change we made at that time when we decided to go down that path was to try and change a bit of the structure. No criticism of anything in the past, it was just different. The young boys would be training a lot with the first team. There wasn't going to be like there is at a lot of clubs, and there was at that time. There was a them and an us. It was to bring together to give these young kids playing against better players, playing against, to bring them on and give them a goal to look for to get into the first team if that was a pathway. The other thing was a big plus that Ross MacArthur put across great that season when I had a chat to him to say that the big problem will be is getting the supporters to buy into it. And I've got to applaud you because that wasn't an easy thing to do because they're that used with expectation levels, but you did that great. And you could see a team developing and playing some cracking football. Maybe took a few weeks, but they were cracking to watch. You all enjoyed it. The feedback was great. And we would have been in the Premier League, I think, had it not been for what happened and what these boys have had to go through. And it was tough, but especially when the administration side came in. And, we had to... I couldn't see where another point was coming from, to be honest. But I thought we did a remarkable given the circumstances. So that was the pathway that, with the young boys that we could get developing. Why did I stay? Because wish I had £1 for everybody said outside. My wife says to me, surely you've had enough now. You can't go through all that again. You've had enough at other clubs. I says, do you know, Linda, for some reason this is the best club what I've. And I'm not here to say this is the only club I want to manage, like they say with the players. What I'm saying is that I really, really enjoyed the job here because they're good people to work for. The supporters gave us a fantastic reception. And to see these kids, come in and train every day and try and develop, try and get better. Yes, they're not the finished article. Yes, they make mistakes. Yes, they get punished. But they're wanting to learn and they want to take this club forward and repay you for keeping them alive and giving them that opportunity. So that was... And I think even this year, which is going to be tough because we're down in a league, which we shouldn't be because it was circumstances that went against us, but we are where we are. We're going to take a few hits. We said that at the start of the season. It's not through lack of effort. It's not through a desire to do well. They work their socks off. They give it everything. They make mistakes. Sometimes they'll get punished, sometimes they'll not. But they keep going right to the end, and I think you've shown that. They've shown that in this season. So it is the way that the club's going to go. It is the way the club's going to take them forward with your help and support. Fantastic. You'll hear a lot more, I'm sure, about the Centenary Club, which is one of the reasons tonight. Fantastic title in Lifeline, because that's what you've given us, as a lifeline to take this club forward, and we appreciate that. Just to give you an update on with the youth side, is that it's, you're very fortunate because with the youth side, you think it's not just the first team. There's another group of young players coming through. Last year, we got through to the Youth Cup final, which is a marvellous achievement. They did well in for given the circumstances and against all the Premier League clubs. I think we finished in the top half. And when you consider that team had to play, first team games and cup ties and everything, it was just remarkable, really. But the one of the reasons you should try and keep this going and keep trying to save this club is you've got a crop of young boys coming in that I think is putting the first team under pressure already. We've got... We played last couple of weeks ago, I don't know if some of you would be there, but we've played one of the clubs that have got a renown for a great youth policy and knocked them out the Youth Cup that we got to the final last year. And what makes it more remarkable is that, in a tournament of 20s, under 20s, we had a 15-year-old goalkeeper in goals. And not just because it was the only goalkeeper we had, he was good enough, right? He was good enough. And that's the difference, We had a 16-year-old laddie, first time in his football, scores the winning goal. And they've got players there like Lewis, Martin, Ryan Williamson, as I said, the young goalkeeper Cammy Gill, who's only 15. I'm not saying they're going to go the way to the final again, but that's the bonus for me. The bonus will come big time when they put the people under pressure. And it doesn't matter what age they are. That's the club's philosophy, and if they're good enough, they'll get their chance. And I think that will help us when we go to recruit young players in the future. We can only do it with your support and help, because it takes a lot of money to run a football club with the youth, and all we can assure you is your money we will use very wisely in the future to develop the team and give it, when we get back there, we'll progress, and we will enhance the team with your support. And I'm sure that the board have already told me that they'll try and help if we need that wee bit of experience, but we won't be going down the same path as we've done before. You'll start to enjoy your football, and hopefully that'll bring us a success. So just to finish, I would like to say that, again, can't thank you enough. You've saved the club, and what we'll try and do is repay you by keeping that a continued challenge to bring us the success that you crave for. Thanks a lot.
At last. Good evening, welcome on stage, Jim Leishman. Folks, good evening, my name's Jason Barber. This gentleman here really shouldn't need any introduction. I don't know which one's which there, Leish, but take your pick. That's me, Jason. Right, okay.
That's
okay.
me.
Listen, the reason we've got this photograph on the backdrop, and the reason you've been hearing a lot of the music you've heard so far tonight, because we are going to bounce back and forth a couple of times between 1985 and the situation that the club was in then, and basically 2013, where we are now. The worldwide phenomenon at the time, 1985, was Live Aid. It was all about raising money. Everybody was dancing in the streets, but...
No, in Dunfermline, Jason, we were struggling at the time, folks, when I took over. I was 29. You all know that because you're all Dunfermline fans, like the guys up here. And I can remember going in at the time, really proud of the fact that I was the Dunfermline manager, and I remember my first team talk, I was wanting to be quite positive, and there were 38 teams in the Scottish football at the time, and I go to the boys sitting down and I say to them, right lads, we're 35th top in Scottish football. And that's what I said, genuinely said that, that's how bad it was. Rather than going in, I'm not really telling you what I said to them because they're a couple of youngsters, but rather than going and say we're crap, because at the time we were the lowest ever position, and I took over, but I was still quite proud, and I had the dreams, and that we would go back to the 60s when you were dancing in the streets. It was magic then. That's when, with the real team, and till, well, just after 85, we weren't doing that too much of dancing in the streets, and that was my memories of that time.
We'll move on from Bob Geldof, because he was quite abrupt when he was asking folk for money in 1985, so we'll not copy what he said back then. But your first real season in charge, your full season, 84-85 season. We finished third that season, just missed out on promotion. Fans were on the park, everybody thought we were up. Can you remember what you said to the punters at the time?
Well, again, it was disappointing. Ended in disappointment because we tried so hard that year, and we got rid of 11 players. We started moving Norrie McCarthy about. He went to centre half, Bobby Forrest to full back, and we brought players in. We're starting to bring players in, but Alloa were up at Montrose, and we thought they got beat 1-0. That gave us promotion, but the score, we got the wrong score, and it was Gary Thompson that scored for Alloa at the time. So I thought the best thing to do to sign him, so I signed him next year. And but I had to go and say sorry to the fans. We didn't quite achieve our goal.
But then, that, as you say there, you signed Gary Thompson, which was the first of a few signings with some money coming into the club. And then, summer of 1985, it all changed. The club had just missed out, and you went down to Bolton.
Bolton was that was the key for me, and we'll maybe speak about it later on.
We'll come back to the people involved. Yeah.
That is when the Centenary Club was started in 1985, our centenary year, and we had a that's when, I'm sure you've all got a copy. That's when we went to #1 with the EastEnders songs. It was great. I've still got still got the gold disc. But it was a great year, because that was, for me, it was a great year. That was, I saw a turnaround in Dunfermline again. I saw people starting to come back, and I saw the board started to get a wee bit uppity again and positive, and the Centenary Club played a great part of that. And that's a photo I'd like to talk about.
We'll come back to that one later on, certainly. And I think we've got a couple of photographs just showing early prize winners, the first ever prize winner when you had your initial launch and what have you. Again, we'll cover that in the Centenary Club bit later
that's the
on.
girl Garvey in the middle there with Mr. Rennie, of course, and me, Jimmy McConville, and she won £1,000, the first big prize for the Centenary Club, £1,000. And the girl was she was unemployed, and she was so excited about winning that first prize, and it was great.
Inaugural £1,000. Then obviously, the club's fortunes were on the up and up. Second division champions, only the second ever league title in the club's history at that time. So you just missed out, and then you went on to win the league title the following year.
It was great. The fans started to come back in the second division. You know, the fans have been great this year, and it's great to hear Jimmy talking about the involvement the fans had, and we needed them at that time to go to where we wanted to go, and they started coming back, and the Centenary Club was formed at the ballroom, and the money started to come in.
Again, if we move on, we'll see some of the new directors that were coming on board there as well. There's Mr. Braesby Senior, Mr. Rennie there, sorry, and the promotion to Premier League, with it again helped by the funding when you missed out on the league title, but you won promotion straight up to the Premier League, 1987 again, with money coming in from the Centenary Club.
The feel-good factor was great, not just for the players. The players were brilliant because they were a community players. You know, you get a football team in the community, or a community football team, and a community football team, everybody's got one, but when you get a team in the community, you go out, and the players were so proud of what they were achieving, and they saw me bringing new players in. I saw Grant Reid, £15,000, but at that time it was an amazing amount of money for signing my first player for £1,000 down for Scythe, to go then, because of the money that was getting generated, to get 15,000 player. He brought the best out of Davy Young. I had competition then. Again, I was allowed to get good players to come in and get competition, and we started to kick off. That season was great for everybody in the town. It wasn't wasn't for the football players and me, but everybody it was just a pride to go to the game and a pride to walk along the town and go. The players were magnificent then. They were just fantastic.
And the crowds were obviously on up and up as well. I think the next photograph that comes up shows a packed home end at East End Park there, beating Celtic 2-1. Craig Roberts and Eric Ferguson, for example, that was the first ever Premier League win for the club, beating Celtic at home.
That was a great goal. Yeah, that was the club suit at the time, and that's what happened. If they didn't perform, that's what happened to them at the end of the game. They got shot. Who put that? Is that Joe Greer?
I think it is. I
was promoting the musical at that time. My wife's musical, Kirtland musical. That's what I was promoting. Anyway.
But again, it tied in with the poetry. 1988, the club was on national TV with St. Greavesy, beating Rangers in the Cup. But again, it wasn't just the first team. You can talk about the first team, obviously, but the BP Youth Cup at that time. Exactly the same season. That
was the first poem as well. As you say, oh Lord, you know the dangers. Each time you go and play the Rangers, Dunfermline 2, the Rangers 1. What a thrill when we humped the Souness, man. Can you mind that? Rangers let me down, though. They didn't score, you remember that? Get up them, yay. But no, the BP, the gaffer was talking about the young laddies now who have been magnificent this year. They've been magnificent, and not just for Jim and Neil, but for Stephen Wright and John Potter. John's in the audience here. They've come through, and they've not let Stephen and John through, and Craig Dargo, and the manager's giving them an opportunity now. That's great. At that time, it was the same. You had and Lee Bullen, Stevie Crawford, Derek Sink, Raymond Sharp went to Preston. All these young laddies, Andy Williamson, who played the first game in the Premier League, and Jim's got his son on the bench. It's brilliant. So the Centenary Club allowed us to invest and bring the youth through and have a youth team. That was the thing. Just to have a youth team was great. but it's about finance.
And then moving towards the end of the decade, I know it's a bit of all our yesteryears here, but it is important that obviously the club's first ever First Division title came 1989 with the captain Bobby Smith there. And it was a great team at the time, with 13,000 people at East End Park that day, which is just phenomenal.
Bobby Smith, big honk, Norrie there, and Davy Irons there. These boys, it was great. I was allowed to bring them in, and you can see the crowds, and that's what we want. We're wanting them to come back for the feel-good factor. That's what it's about.
And then you had one last season at the top flight there before you were moved on. But the club, again, I'm trying to be polite. With the money kept coming in, Centenary Club, and you were able to buy players like Istvan Kozma, George O'Boyle there, Graham Robertson, all came in for transfer fees, which was unthinkable a few years before that.
We got Graham for Queen of the South, 25 grand. George for Bordeaux, although he played in Ireland, George was £200,000. And Jimmy came for Glasgow Rangers. But that's just it. You mentioned Istvan Kozma, and because of the money coming in, it was great. I was allowed to go to a board meeting, talk to the board, look, I'd like to get a player, and the money was tight at the time, but they at least had a look at it. They had a look at it because there was income streams coming in. It was great, and you see what we did. These boys that was a great season as well.
And it was the best of both worlds. There were huge crowds, 11,000 crowds average that season, which I think everybody realises is never going to happen again. However, you had the big crowds coming in, you had the money from the Centenary Club and other supporters clubs, all the supporters buses at the time leaving the town. I can't remember what the number was, but umpteen buses leaving the town every away game.
You've just said it will happen again, Jace. We've got to believe it's going to happen again, eh? We've got to give them a chance to make it happen again. That's what this is about here. We're going to try and give them a chance. If we can all put our hands in our hearts and look up and look in the mirror and say, hey, I did my bit. I did a bit because this is my team. And that's what we've got to believe in. And that's what I believe in. And Jim Jeffries, you talked to Jim Jeffries about his football thoughts, and Bobby, as Bob. Everybody that I've been talking to for the last 6 months, it's about getting back. We're at a lot of similarities for where we were in 85. We've been put down and whatever, and we were like that then, but we stopped and we've got a foundation and we moved on again up the way, and that's what we're doing now. We've got a foundation, we've got a ground foundation, and we're starting to build the bricks now, and that's why people have turned up tonight, and that's why I believe, Jace, the foundation's right now.
Great. And again, Back to the Future, that's what it's all about. We want to get, I don't know which one's meant to be which there. I don't know if that's you.
I'm going to be Marty, right?
Oh, you can be Marty. Aye, very good. Right, the ton of the feel-good factor. That's what it's all about tonight. Is we need to try and get people back believing. That's the word you've used, believe. That's got to be the fact. I mean, back in the late 1980s, Centenary Club had over 1,100 members at peak, which is a phenomenal amount of people, paying £8.66, which they always did. £8.66 has been the membership fee from the very first launch of it back in 1985. So, we need to talk about where we are now in terms of keeping the powers that Bob mentioned earlier on. And the first part of tonight really is about this Centenary Club Lifeline. You might have read some bits and pieces on the website already, but tonight we want to give you all the details. Bit of history first. I don't want to do death by PowerPoint by any means, but obviously it was set up in 1985. As Jim mentioned earlier on, Bolton Wanderers, you can tell us about your trip down there in a second, but the membership subscriptions have never changed, £8.66 a month. So do you want to talk us through the Bolton trip, Jim, and how that came about?
Can I explain who these guys are, Jason? If I miss out the first guy, but the guy with the glasses on is a guy called Alf Davis. Alf Davis was the commercial manager of Bolton Wanderers at the time. There's Mr. Waters, who was the chairman at the time, myself, Cecil for the ballroom, because like the night they gave us the ballroom for nothing and to promote the Centenary Club. And the guy on the right-hand side, this side, your right-hand side, was the famous, world-famous Nat Lofthouse. And I went to Dunfermline Hydro, folks. I went and there was a presentation. This guy, Alf Davis, was doing a presentation about Bolton Wanderers. And they had 7 days to come up with money, or they were just shutting down. They were in the 3rd division at the time. 7 days, and this guy come up with this Bolton Lifeline. I went back to the board and then I spoke at the board, and Wally Braesby Senior, Mr. Braesby, he says, Jim, I like that idea. Come on, we'll go down to Bolton. So we went down to Bolton. I showed him all the stuff that we'd been getting taught. They had been speaking about, sorry. And he says, I think this could work. Wally's senior. And he went back after Bolton and he went to the full board where, as I say, Jimmy Waters was the chairman. And he was so enthusiastic about it. He says, we can do this. We can do this. And then on the midweek night, we went to the ballroom to launch the Centenary Club, 1985. The Centenary Club has raised about £1.5 million in that period of time, which is an amazing amount of money. £1.5 million, that Centenary Club. And why we're here at this part, because we're going into the question and answer, which is, a lot of you will be wanting to ask questions, but it's a lifeline. Why we called it a lifeline, no, rather than the Centenary Club? The Centenary Club has been marvellous. You know, it went for Wally Braisby Senior to Jim Harrison, Wally Braisby Junior, who's here. He's recovering for his heart attack. So he's sitting somewhere. Are you, Wally? He's here. Great time with you. Stay off the drink. And but the point I'm trying to make is the lifeline is an important word. But all Dunfermline supporters, you're here because you care. You care. That's why I'm here. That's why we're stuck about, and that's why Jim Jeffries signed a new contract. That's why Bobby Garnery has spent 5 days out of 7 the last 6 months, along with the guys sitting in the front row, Stephen Taylor, all the boys who started off, Donald, Ian, every one of them, Rodney, all the boys have started because they care, because they're wanting to see the good days. The good days for the younger ones here were the 80s, then the 90s, where the 90s night on the 14th of November. That was a great period of time. The club then invested money, remember. They got money to put in to get all the big players at that time. And then the 60s, poor Charlie Dixon, an icon, died. But we want to get your youngsters, we want to show them, take them to the game so they can see these good days. And if you get behind this, folks, if you get behind this, I can't give another 50 grand, I can't give £100,000, I can't give £150,000, I can't do that. But I can pay this. I can pay this every month. And if I get somebody to join me, if I get somebody else to join me, see, when we combine that, we can be a real strength with that. And it could be something that's really, really important to this football club. Bobby's talked about buying it, or saving it, buying it, and now sustaining it. And that is why we're having this wee bit promotion here before we go to the Q&A. That is why, because you feel the same as me. I know you do. I hear you. I've heard you every Saturday. You've been tremendous getting behind the team. That's why, and the team's been great. Respond to that, because that's when they walk off the park and you clap them. That's what makes them keep going. But we need to do that all the time. And these guys, Jimmy Waters, but more so Wally Braisby Senior, got to start it. We need to take it to the next level again. The next level again. And that's no disgrace to the people. No disgrace to the people that are paying their monthly subscriptions. They're now $8.66. You know, they can continue to do that, but we need it to just go that wee bit higher. Just that wee bit higher, and then we can really kick off, because everybody can sleep then. We've got, sorry, I'm getting dry. We've got something to continue. We've got something to look for. That's coming in every month, and then we can go, and Bully Braisby, all the boys, Bully George and Marvin, and all of them that are doing their wee bit extra. That wee bit extra is then a bonus ball to go to a players' fund or a bonus scheme or whatever. And that's why. So I love these guys. Jim Waters gave the job, and Bully Braisby, the Centenary Club.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate that. If we could just go back, we've touched on some of this already in terms of the membership numbers in the past, but I think one of the key figures, Jim spoke about a figure of £1.5 million in total over the past 28 years. But to begin with, in 1985, when the club was in that second division, the third tier of Scottish football, it was providing a guaranteed £100,000 cash income to the football club per annum at that point, which was a huge amount of money back then, huge amount of money now, as we are back in a very similar position. Because of the huge spike in membership numbers that we got at the very big launch of it, talking about Night Magic and all the rest of it, they could have a bigger price structure in place. There were cars, holidays, the World Cup in Mexico in 1986. One member won an all-expenses-paid trip to that. There was a £2,500 one-off prize for members. So again, that was only possible because of the huge upsurge in membership numbers. If it dropped down, they wouldn't be able to do one-offs like that. After the 1,100 member peak, it took a big hit in 1990, and it's never really recovered. But thankfully, a lot of existing members have been very, very loyal to the Centenary Club, and I think everybody in Pars United, the new board of directors that are on place, are really, really grateful for that. We still provide the football club for one-off purchases if Mo Hutton needs any bits and pieces, if a piece of equipment is required behind the scenes. And obviously there's still the cash donations, they buy hospitality, all those run-of-the-mill things that make a difference. They sound like run-of-the-mill, but they're really not, because it's cash that's in the bank that the club can't budget for. So we've now established, it's plateaued out, we haven't dropped below the 350 members now. They've been paying the $8.66 a month, which, as I said, is as per the original way back in 1985. So if we move on, looking forward, we've spoken about the past, now we need to look forward. As you'll see from some of the slides tonight and a lot of the literature that will be getting promoted very, very soon, it's going to be rebranded as the Centenary Club Lifeline. Again, echoes of the past with the Bolton Wanderers Lifeline, but this is going to be all the branding. It's got the new club's corporate logos, the new club badge, which has been tweaked with echoes of the past and what have you. So that's going to be on all the official letterheads. And it's important to recognise that this is now going to be Dunfermline Athletics' one and only official fundraising partner. There have been other schemes and other developments, other bits and pieces, promotions that have come and gone over the years. Centenary Club has kept going. It's never disappeared, it's never disbanded. It's been an absolute constant since 1985. So now we're here to give it a bit of an injection and a real boost to try and expand it beyond the 350 members we've got at the moment. We need to expand it out to the broader fan base, the thousands of fans that Dunfermline Athletic have got, that come to the games, that maybe come to the odd game, that perhaps never come to a game, or they live abroad, they're expats. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But what we're trying to do is to target every single Dunfermline Athletic fan to sign up to this new membership club. It's a £20 a month membership, which is going to be for the new members, £240 a year. We've got 500 members as the initial target. That would give a gross income per annum of £120,000. £20,000 would be given away as prizes. Now again, that's just an original, an original figure, an original target, leaving the £100,000 guaranteed cash income to go to the football club, which will be spread over the calendar year. You've seen how unkind the fixture list has already been to us, even in this season since Pars United took over, or during the administration period. You can go weeks on end these days without a home game, which is absolutely crippling, as you could imagine. This is going to be a monthly subscription, which in turn will go directly to the football club. There'll be a monthly payment. So during the winter months, if we get any postponements, God forbid, or we lose any home games, or we get, which can quite easily happen in Scottish football these days, you can go 4 or 5 weeks in the middle of your football season because of international breaks and what have you, without a home game. So this will provide guaranteed cash income to the club when it needs it most. Again, these figures here, that's our starting point. Obviously, the target is to try and increase that. And every single person who signs up, it's not just a cliche this, but every single person who does sign up, the prize pot will go up, the club donations will go up. So the original £20,000 to fans, that can go up as well. So why should I join? Here's just some of the benefits here. As I say, it's officially sanctioned. This is going to be the only real method, any vehicle that you've got as a supporter, to put money directly into Dunfermline Athletic. The subscriptions, as I said earlier on, they've never changed. In nearly 30 years, they've been £8.66 a month. That's the equivalent of £3.46 in 2013. That's a pound, sorry. A pound is the equivalent of £3.46. So the pro rata, it works out to where we were in 1985 and where we are now. As I've said, the more supporters who sign up, the more funds can be raised. Simple as that. That is the bottom line. That's why it's called the Lifeline. That money will be fed 12 months of the year, no matter what. I've mentioned the fact that we've got the blank spells during the football calendar, which doesn't help. This is all about steady cash flow. A benefit to you, obviously. We don't just want you to give your money away and think you're getting nothing back in return. There's obviously a prize structure in place. It's been phenomenal over the years, over the past 28 years. Lots of people have won lots of money. Since 1985, there have been over £1 million given away to members of the Centenary Club in cash prizes, whether it's a cheque for £250, £500, £1,000, even up to £2,500. back at the peak membership. How can you join? We want to make it as simple as possible. We've got membership forms here. We've got plenty of them. There'll be volunteers out here. I'm loath to say it's not a hard sell because, in a way, I've got the devil on my shoulder and the guys in the front row saying it needs to be a hard sell. It's called Lifeline for a reason, so we really need to try and encourage everybody to sign up. We need your bank details. We'll set up a standing order, and the £20 will come out of your bank account if you agree to join on the 1st of December, and that's it. You don't need to do any more. £20 will be taken out of your bank account on whichever day of the month you like. It'll be placed in the Centenary Club's bank. It'll be rolled up to make a large payment for every single month to Dunfermline Athletic Football Club. We've got forms here. You can have them tonight. We'd love you to fill them in tonight. We'll have forms in the club shop. We'll have clubs in the main reception. They'll be available online through the new Centenary Club website. Again, we've suffered in the past where the forms have perhaps not been readily available. That's not going to be the case. You'll see them every time you come into East End Park, whether you come into the shop, Marvin's photo stall, the main reception, hospitality, Legends for a pint. They'll be there, I can assure you. We're also going to try and obviously expand that out with the football club. Any local businesses, I'm sure a lot of you are in here tonight, have got work in the town. Brilliant. Sign people up, take it to your work, take bundles of them, take as many as you like. Encourage your workmates to sign up.
Sorry to interrupt, but one of the guys is joining, and I phoned him last week. And again, to go back to the 90s night on the 14th of November, Owen Coyle's coming up for Wigan, and I asked him, Owen, we're doing the same thing, we're having a relaunch of the Bolton Lifeline, and he says, Jim, it's the most important thing that Bolton Wanderers ever did. Without that, there would have been no Lifeline. And so he's one, he's coming up, so he's switched in. We've asked 2 or 3 other former players, and I'm sure we're going to get them. I've asked a boy that just retired recently, so he's going to check his bank account.
You can only ask.
I can only ask.
That's
I'm
what
sure
it's all about.
they'll only join, but...
Where are we? We want to make it as simple as possible. So again, any suggestions, we're going to do it online as well, obviously, if you can fill the form in. We do need to set up the standing order. Once we've done that, that's the only bit of bureaucracy or red tape that we've got. Everything after that is plain sailing. And again, we've said it there, we've had it always available, that a small commission, if you run a travel bus, if you're on the Lizzie bus, or the PJ's bus, whatever, sign up everybody else on the bus, you'll make a bit of cash yourself as a wee thank you. Every single member you get will give you a wee cash payment. If you're already a member, you should have had a letter. I'm sure there are a few Centenary Club members in here already tonight. We sent out letters to every existing member last week explaining, giving a brief outline of what we were proposing to do. We don't want to lose any members. So the people who have been paying £8.66 a month, we certainly don't want you to say to you, sorry, we want £20 or else. They've got the option of staying with the £8.66 a month. And I'll explain how that will work in a second. But again, we would actively encourage you, sign up. If you can afford it, please sign up to the £20 a month. There are benefits for doing that. New members who pay the £20 a month, or you can buy 2 or 3 memberships, even better, you'll go into a prize draw for the Centenary Club Lifeline. Existing members will go into a draw once should they choose to keep the £8.66. However, as you see at the bottom there, if you pay the £20 a month, if you're a new member or you upgrade from existing, you'll go into every prize draw 3 times. So it works out the pro rata. We've got a basic membership fee, then you pay for either one draw if you're an existing member, or you go into the draw 3 times that pro rata if you pay the £20 a month. Who can join? Everybody. You don't have to be a Pars fan. If you work at FMC or Amazon or Sky or any of these big employers in the town, get in there, speak to the people in the call centres. These people have got hundreds of people that work locally. They might not be Pars fans, but there's a chance for them to win a prize. I'm sure they might have a bit of a soft spot for Dunfermline if they win a very large cheque and get their photograph taken on the pitch. You can have as many memberships as you like. £20 a month is certainly the target for everybody. That'll put you into the prize draw 3 times, but you can multiply your chances of winning a prize if you want to do that, and you can obviously afford to take out multiple memberships. Again, more cash raised goes straight to Dunfermline Athletic. You move on to the next one. What will the prizes be? Again, starter for 10. The prizes will increase with additional members. We're proposing at the outset that this £20,000 will be set aside and that will be divided up throughout the year for prizes. We'd love that to go up. Simple as that. We can have one-off super draws if the money allows. If the money that's ring-fenced to go to the football club is secured, then every additional member thereafter can help raise more prize. I've joked about it in the past, but it'd be fantastic if we got a huge upsurge of members and all of a sudden we were to give away a big cheque on the pitch, for example, at the Christmas game against Rangers. But that all depends on extra people signing up. As I said there, yeah, additional members, the prize pot goes up. So that's the new logo, that's the new brochure. We'll get some photographs taken on with this, but I think there are guys waiting, they're dotting around. We've got the new forms here, which have just arrived in. Pete Campbell's here tonight. Must thank Pete as well, and my fellow committee members as well. There's been a committee that have been working hard as volunteers for 28 years. Pete's one of them. He's been the chairman for many, many years now. So again, it's thanks to volunteers like all the other supporters clubs out there, like the PST, like the travel buses, you name it. Everybody does their bit. But this is just one of many committees. But this one now, for the first time, is getting the Dunfermline Athletics seal of approval. The new board want supporters to sign up to this new scheme. Every member will count. So we'll give you some time to ponder over that, but thanks for listening to my ranting. Thanks for now. Cheers.
Folks, there's going to be a 15-minute break, folks, and we're going to start the Q&A about 8:30, so we'll have 15 minutes.
Just to say thanks again. Some of the first team players are here tonight, and I believe they've either volunteered or been asked to help out. So round of applause for the first team players as they're coming around the hall tonight. We've got pens, we've got forms. So please, folks, please sign up. Thank you. Folks, we'll start the Q&A in about 2 minutes' time. If you could take your seats back. Anybody that's filled in a form, please make sure you bring it down to the front or somebody will come and collect it from you. But thank you very much, because we're getting loads of forms in.
The skirts hang so heavy around your head that you never knew you were the young, because you play a chance with a lifetime's romance, and the prize was far too long.
Okay, guys, we're just about to start the question and answer session, which will be compared by Jason Barber. And there are 3 guys out there with roving mics, Graham, Neil, and Mikey Molkovich, who is probably the most noticeable guy in the room, height-wise, so he's up the back there. Before we kick off on this and Jason introduces the panel, I just thought it would be nice for us to welcome on the stage John Potter and 4 of our players, Ryan Goodfellow, Alan Smith, Callum Morris and Alex Whittle. Come on, guys.
Thanks, guys. Cheers, Pots. Right, folks, just to introduce the panel, we've got General Manager David McMorran, General Manager Ross MacArthur, Jim Leishman, obviously, Chairman Bob Garmery, Manager Jim Jeffries, and Directors Ian Hunter, Kip McBay, and at the far end, representing the Par Supporters Trust, Mr. Drew Main. So, thank you. If you want to think up some questions, as I say, put your hands up. House rules, very, very simple. We'll try and get everybody in. Put your hand up. I'm not ignoring you. The guys in the microphones going up and down the aisles, just make sure that you can catch their eye. We've got a microphone to pass along the panel here. So please wait till the microphone gets to you. State your question clearly and who ideally you would like to answer your question. That's probably the best way of doing this. And we can get through it quite swiftly and we can all get away to the pub or home, depending on where you want to go. So, any early volunteers to ask the first question of the night for one of our panel? Gentleman down here, right in the middle. There could be a bit of clambering about here, so please feel free to pass the microphones along the row and that'll help get through things quickly.
Well, the first question...
What's your name, sorry?
It's Robert. It's Robert. It's for the panel in general. What concerns me is that now that the club have started to recover from what's happened to them, and all these young guys are on the park. I was up at Forfar the other week, and we got humped 4-0, but I still came away a proud man because there was commitment for the boys on the park, for the rough diamonds. Now, when these rough diamonds are all polished up, what's the club's policy about retaining them? Because what I don't want to see is us languishing in this division. And what happens is the young talent that Jim and all his staff put time into, some other club comes along and gets all the benefits, and then we're back to square one again. What's the club's policy in the future on that?
Well, I'll take that one. I mean, the club's policy is that we're going to run a sustainable football club. And I know it's hard to say this, but at the end of the day, we're going to balance the books. We want to keep all these young men playing for us, but we've got to be realistic. At the end of the day, we are in the business of producing talent, making sure we nurture that talent, and bringing them through. And if some of these rough diamonds, as you refer to them, become polished and then become worth something to somebody else, then it may be impossible for us as a club to hold on to them at this point in our history. We've got to be honest about it. We wouldn't want to stand in the front of one of these young men who could go on to greater things if we can't sustain them at our club. The other point I would make is, as Jim has pointed out, these young men are already feeling the heat on their coattails of some very talented young players who are coming up behind them, and they're going to be pushing them quite hard. So as a club, we've got to realise we've got to run a sustainable football club. We've got to have money in the bank at the end of each season, or we will go the same road we went before.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Next question.
Can I just add to that there's a lad here tonight who's been a big help to me and the backroom staff is John Potter. And I can tell you right now that just recently we turned down a Premier League club for an approach for John for the job he was doing, because he says he loves it at this club. He loves what he's doing. He loves working with these young boys. He's getting taught the game for one day when he goes into management. So that shows you how keen we are to keep everybody at this club to keep going what was started, and also the players. They keep telling us that we've asked them often, they keep enjoying it here. So we're very aware, and we'll never stop anybody advancing themselves, but it'll have to be for good money for Dunfermline Football Club to let them go and do that. But we'll always have somebody ready to go in, and that's the bit that we're doing, the work behind the scenes to make sure that this keeps going, and with your help and support, that makes it that little bit easier.
Thanks, Jim. Next question for the panel. Could be a very short night. One way over there on the far side. Whoever's on that one. Neil. Wait for the microphone. Cheers, and we'll just so everybody can hear you.
Mikey, you should be running around there, Mikey.
Come on, Mikey.
Come on, Mikey, you could have sprinted around there.
Take you about 4 seconds.
You beat me.
Jason, I've got a question from the forum. What sort of timescale are we looking at before our sustainability is putting money back into the club continuously?
Who wants to take that one? Bob, it's back to you again.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's fair to say that we will always be putting money into our football club in one way, shape or form, even if it's only just buying a ticket to watch the game on a Saturday. That's what being a supporter is all about. I think it's fair to say that the financial model that we've set out for ourselves demands that everybody consistently appreciates that there is a privilege in owning a football club, but there's also a cost in owning a football club. And that cost is that we are going to have to sustain that football club going forward. So I couldn't say that it will ever be stopped. You know, we'll always have a desire to encourage the fans to give as much as they want to give. But at the end of the day, if you support Dunfermline Athletic Football Club and knowing what we've achieved, I don't think that's a huge problem for everybody. I mean, I was talking to a gentleman earlier on tonight. We were just saying, I mean, one great way of putting money back into this club very quickly is to start going to some of the under-20s games, which only cost £2 and could be better attended. And they're, you know, they're midweek games, and you know, you're going to see some really good football, some talented youngsters. So if you're at a loss what to do one night, find out when the under-20s games are on or the under-17 games are on, and go along and pay to watch them. Okay.
Thanks, Bob. Next question.
Jace, I think this is what part of this evening was all about. The Centenary Club. Bobby mentioned in his introductory speech, you know, we might get a period when there's 3 games away from home, or during the winter we might get a cancellation. You know, the players have to get paid, the staff have to get paid, etc., etc. The Centenary Club Lifeline is a guaranteed income. At the start, David and Ross can put in their budget, their cash flow. This is going to come in. We have 500, we have 1,000 members paying such and such. That's guaranteed. So that's important that we have a guaranteed income, that we're no scrimping and scraping. We're no going from month to month. Oh, we need a top up, we need a top up. And that is the way we can keep players. You know, selling players it's happened all the time. Ferguson to Rangers, McCall to Rangers. It happens all the time. But if we can get a group of people like yourselves, 1,000 people doing the 20 quid, what a bonus ball that is. What a lifeline that is for us.
Cheers, Jim. Okay, gentleman down here.
Colin Patterson speaking. The club is now clear of debt, we think, but the administrators have just finished. Who picks up that bill, or has that already been paid?
The administrator's bill.
Yeah, we've paid already 50% of the administrator's fees. Part of the CVA arrangement that we financed was that BDO's fees of £100,000 would be paid by Pars United, with 50% of those being paid up front, which has happened, and the balance being paid over 2 years on a monthly basis. So in the same way as I hope you guys have all set up standing orders today, we've set up a standing order for the next 2 years to pay the balance of BDO's fees. We've also incurred legal fees, and those fees will be sent to us shortly. We've got a good handle on what those numbers are, and that should be it. We're not expecting any other material fees to appear from anywhere else.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Colin. 2 down here, centre aisle.
Alan Weir, and I hope the question comes across how I'm trying to put it. The playing park, East End Park, who owns the park and how are we paying for the privilege to be playing there at the moment? I just didn't want to go down the road that we did before with our friend Mr. Masterton.
Yeah. Well, it's a relatively complex arrangement that we've put in place, but we've tried to keep it as simple as possible, largely because we were given a total of 10 days in which to put together the finance for the stadium. We asked a number of people who are already patrons of the football club if they'd be prepared to step up to the plate and help us finance the acquisition of the stadium. And happily, some investors did that. We had other offers from other people. Some were incredibly generous, but they wouldn't have met the requirements of KPMG, who were acting as administrators of the old East End Park Limited, or Lloyds Bank, who were the major creditors. They were doing a very attractive deal on the stadium with us because they saw that it was going to a community-owned club. And any other purchaser who may have wanted to buy it as a sort of landlord and let it to us wouldn't have got that deal. So we put together the monies that these investors were prepared to advance. We made an offer for the stadium, and the structure that we've adopted is that the football club will have a 30-year lease of the stadium. That's its first line of protection, if you like. For the next 30 years, it's protected as the tenant of the stadium. Secondly, the company that we formed to gather in the money to acquire the stadium, for £1, Pars United has a 25.1% stake in that company. The other 74.9% is paid for by the investors who put up the purchase price. Now that 25.1% gives Pars United a lot of protection in that the fundamental constitution of that company cannot change without Pars United's approval. A third line of protection we put in place for the club was that the articles of the stadium owning company say that there are to be 3 directors, and Pars United is to nominate 2 of those 3, and the investor group can nominate the third. So on a day-to-day operational basis of the stadium owning company, Pars United has 2 out of the 3 directors. And the final protection we put in place, and it's not in anybody's plans, but we felt it appropriate to build in the protection. If ever the stadium were to be sold, it's a requirement of the stadium owning company that the first thing it does with the sales proceeds is acquire or build another stadium to DEFC's satisfaction. And then if there's anything left over, having sold the East End Park and bought the new stadium, 50% of what's left goes to Pars United, and 50% would be available to the investors group. A rent is being paid. It's not a commercial rent, and the first year of DEFC's occupation is rent-free. For the next 4 years, it'll pay £40,000 a year in rent. That compares with the lease under the old East End Park Limited, where the rent was £360,000 a year, although it was never actually paid. And then every 5 years, that rent will go up by the equivalent of a 3% per annum growth. So that provides a modest return for those investors who stepped up to help us during that 10-day hiatus period when we had to, A, raise the money, because KPMG gave us 10 days to finalise our offer and produce proof of funding. So that was the structure that we adopted. There's an added advantage in that if we hadn't used this structure, the purchase price would have increased by a further 20% because VAT has to be charged by the administrators on the sale of East End Park. And the structure that we are using means that we don't have to pay that 20% VAT, so that's an added bonus on the way through.
Could I just add on that, if names are required, the 2 directors who represent Pars United are Drew Main and myself, and the investors director is a chap called Patrick Burns. And that whole scheme that you've just heard described, which I have to say completely baffled me the first time I heard it, but I now know it was brilliant, was conceived by the man who's just described it to you. So thank you for that, Ian.
Video.
Hi, Eric Spring. For Ian Hunter again, I think the new regime inherited football debts of £170,000, I think, because that's the way it is. What are the plans? Is there a time limit that has to be paid off? How's that going to work going forward? Or how's that going to get paid off going forward?
It's really quite simple. The football debt, because I didn't understand what it was, is monies owed to former players, current players, and the football club, for other football clubs. It's payable in full as a condition of continuing to participate in Scottish football, and it will be paid off over a period of months or even years by agreement with the people who are due the money. We have in the investment capital sufficient funds to ensure we can do that, and it will be done in an orderly way, in the way that we mean to go on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, David.
One of the directors who is not here tonight, Craig McWhirter, has undertaken to basically spearhead that programme, Eric, because as David has said, we need to look after those people who are currently in our employment, looking after them first, and then moving on through the other classes of those who are owed money in the football world. But it is something that Craig McWhirter is dealing with, and we will obviously keep you all appraised as to how the progress goes, without actually talking about the specifics of who is getting what, because we are talking about players who will be getting back monies, etc.
Thanks, Bob. John down the front, somebody get a microphone, third row. Come on, just a second. We need more athletic microphone runners.
Gentlemen, one of the problems that's arisen over the last year has been probably the loss of the reputation of DAFC in the town and in the West Fife community. A lot of people have lost a lot of money, including some of the gentlemen facing me now. What steps or what plans do you have to start to put DAFC back into the community and to restore its reputation?
Well, I think it's fair to say that as a group, Pars United have always seen an absolute necessity in trying to engage with people who are or have suffered as a result of the club's behaviour in the past. We've talked to quite a number of the businesses who have lost money, and some of them are, shall we say, they're now beginning to return their phone calls. Some of them are on board already, as you mentioned, companies who previously had given credit to Dunfermline, lost money, but have never stopped being suppliers, mainly because their owners or their staff are die-hard Dunfermline fans. As far as the community element goes, John, we've got a whole host of activities that we're going to pursue to position Dunfermline Athletic Football Club back at the centre of the community structure here in West Fife. And just as one example, Christine is here tonight, our penalty kick lady. Now, she's already organised with 8 local high schools a penalty kick competition which will take place each half-time for the next 4 home games, we hope. Then there'll be, the winners of that will go on and play further games in the subsequent home games. And that's all part of the programme of reintroducing Dunfermline Athletic into the community and going into the schools. And as Drew mentioned earlier, we need to move from beyond the secondary schools back to the primary schools, where they'd be absolutely delighted if Callum Morrison's moustache was to turn up at some local primary school and say hello to them. So there's a great many things that Pars United need to do, want to do, but not to put too fine a point in it. We've had our hands full over the last 6 months. But your point is well made, John. We need to start these programmes, and we need to start them now.
Thank you. Next question, waving away. Front row of the rear stalls. Thanks, Mikey. What's your name and your question? And
It's John Gallagher here.
Cheers, John.
I'm just asking about the liaison relationship between the board and the Dunfermline press, because there's a lot of power in advertising. And I noticed the press are quite good at reporting games, and I think they donated money at the beginning, didn't they, to help out. However, this event tonight, there was hardly a word in the press. Regular home games, they don't really promote them very much. Now, I've noticed over the months and the years that when there's a special game coming up and the press promote it, the crowds are always far bigger. So could we not have somebody on the board who would regularly liaise with them just to promote every single home game in a bigger way? Because advertising is powerful, and the Dunfermline Press goes out to a lot of people in the whole West Fife area. And I have definitely noticed a bigger increase when the games have been promoted greatly in the back of the press. I mean, I deliver the mail down there every day, but there's only so much the postman can do, you know. Could have a word at the desk. So a regular person liaising with the press would certainly be, in my opinion, a really good idea.
Ross, you want to take that one? Good question.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I mean, to be fair to the Dunfermline Press, they're actually here tonight. We have had, we believe, quite a good relationship, Pars United certainly, with the Dunfermline Press over the last few months. Obviously, there's a number of things that need to be done at the club, not just in terms of dealing with the press, but in terms of dealing with the fans via the website and the whole sales and marketing activity with the club, because it has been pretty shoddy over the past couple of years. So I agree with what you're saying, and that's something that will fall probably more on my lap going forward, or certainly over the next few months, because we do need to rebuild that and use anything at our disposal. You know, social media being another thing that the club has not used effectively in the past, and we've engaged with quite a few fans in the audience already who have volunteered and really expanded that and utilised that resource far better. So yeah, I accept what you're saying, but we already identify that that's an area that does need a lot of improvement.
Okay. Could I make a plea? We're obviously trying very hard to engage with the press, and as Ross has said, he's constantly liaising with Dunfermline Press, and I'm constantly talking to the Courier as our other sort of local paper. But one thing that motivates editors to carry more articles about anything is letters from their readers. And if I could suggest to anybody here who could put pen to paper or tap onto a keyboard a letter to the editor of the Dunfermline Press, or indeed the Courier, and saying we want more information about Dunfermline Athletic and what's happening at East End Park, that'll motivate them to carry maybe one or two more articles, if you like, putting out our message. So, you know, get on the keyboards, folks. Make a case for our club to get the more coverage in those papers. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Next question. Over here.
Hello, Ian Matheson. Can you not utilise East End Park a bit more? Something like Allo Athletic. They do dancing, they do badminton, they do karate, things like that. They've got clubs coming in, things like that. Can Dunfermline not utilise it with the rooms that they've got? Surely that would bring in guaranteed money every month, which are badly needing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the problem we've had at Dunfermline is there's been a belief that a lot of the activities that have been undertaken at East End Park have been money-making activities. And when you strip away some of the layers that were sort of built up around each of those activities, you found that the club was actually losing money. So what we've done at the moment is we've gone back to the very basics. We've cut right back to the bone on staffing terms, etc. There's the opportunity to do that in the future, but at the moment, what we want to do is get our costs under control, get the club back running well, and I think David's done an absolutely fantastic job in addressing some of those problems, but it doesn't allow us the opportunity to do all the things that perhaps were being done at East End Park in a non-profit making way in the past. But it doesn't mean to say we won't return to that in the future. But at the moment, our focus is about controlling costs.
Yeah, what Bob said is right. Clearly, there's an opportunity to make better use of East End Park. But it has to be done in a controlled way, and it has to be done in a way that's profitable for the club and a good experience for the people that rent the premises. An awful lot of the activity that was taking place in the past was frankly delusional, People thought they were making money when it was costing money. And to be fair, in meetings we've had with other football clubs, we weren't alone in that regard. First and foremost, Dunfermline Athletic is a football club, and that's what we've got to focus on. We've cut the costs back to a level where we can fund the club. We can be sure that at the end of each money, we can pay the players' salaries, we can pay the staff salaries, we can pay the electricity bill, we can pay the local suppliers. That's what we had to do. We had to get stuff under control. In due course, I think there is a good case for using the ground more, but anything we do, we have to do with a plan, and we have to do properly, and we have to do in a way, as I say, that creates a good experience for the people that rent the premises and is profitable for the club. I can already tell you that having changed the match day offer in terms of hospitality, we're making a small amount each time we offer it, and the room hires and the bar activities that continue are highly lucrative in a way that the more ambitious programs we had in the past weren't. So we've built a good foundation, but that's all it is. It's just a platform that we can build on.
Thanks, David. Guys with the microphones, any hands up?
Yeah. Aye, just over here.
Oh.
It's Stuart. I was just wondering, with everything that happened in the High Court a few weeks ago, what's the current situation with the training ground at Petrivy?
Who's going to take that one? Well done, Bob.
I have to say, the biggest shock for me that Friday was seeing Ross MacArthur's suit on STV, but I've seen it up close again tonight. Yeah, okay. We, as Pars United, wanted to divest ourselves of the responsibility of running Petrivy or being involved with Petrivy. Unfortunately, that couldn't be accomplished in the run-up to us buying the club, as mentioned on October the 15th or whatever day it was. There was just too much complexity associated with the various securities that existed over the ground. Now, we're still working our way through those issues. We have a relationship with Pars Trust at Petrivy at the moment, which David has already begun to discuss how that relationship will work. We have to accept that we are, Dunfermline Athletic Football Club, that is responsible for certain of the activities at Petrivy. We are in constant dialogue with Fife Council, who were enormously helpful in the lead up to the events at the High Court, but found themselves kind of hamstrung legally once we got past that point. All I can say is that we are now looking at Petrivy with a fresh pair of eyes. There's one or two things that have come up since we bought the club that are making us think, well, let's just take time. We've got to deal with the problem, but we don't need to rush it like a bullet at a gate. You know, it's there. If we can manage it, we can sit down and discuss the best way to go forward. It's 27 and odd hectares of land that we have a lease, Dunfermline Athletic Football Club have a lease for about the next 50 years. Now, that might be worth something to someone at some point in time. It's certainly worth something to Fife Council because they see it as something they would like to develop. So that's what we've decided to do. We're just going to take time and evaluate and make sure that it's been run properly. As I say, unfortunately, that burden has fallen on David and a very small team of people at East End Park. So we're going to be probably looking for some help, some volunteers to do one or two jobs round, assessing the management side and so on. So that's all underway at the moment. But yes, we've got we've got Petrivy to look after, and we'll do so.
Thanks, Bob. Folks, that's 9 o'clock just now, so we'll keep going for a wee while as long as the questions are going to keep going thick and fast. Just at this point, one thing I should have mentioned earlier on is that the Alhambra box office is open tonight for the Peyton's Premier Pars event, which is taking place, what date is it? Thursday the 14th of November in this very room. You'll have seen Mikey's poster around the town, I'm sure. We've got Owen Coyle coming up. from Wigan. We've got Jackie McNamara coming down from Dundee United. And the vast majority of Bert's 1996 First Division winning team are coming along that night with video footage and interviews. Bill Leckie's going to interview these guys on stage. So it'll be a really great night. So if you want to buy your tickets tonight, or they're at the club shop as well, so it would be great to get as good a turnout for that as possible. Anybody else got a question they want to ask of the panel? Couple, 2, 3 down this side. Do you in order?
Alan MacLeod, I just want to ask a question mainly about revenue streams. I know that had been mooted earlier about the possibility of developing a plastic pitch or getting a plastic pitch at East End Park and using that as a revenue stream. But I can imagine that every pound's a prisoner at the moment, but are we still giving some thought to that?
Any plans, plastic pitch, guys?
Sorry, I didn't quite. I think it was to do with are we thinking about installing a plastic pitch? Is that the basis of your question? I think yes would be the answer to your question. Are we thinking about it? Certainly we cannot afford it. There's a lot of people who are here and many others who would be against it because they don't think that you can play football on it. I mean, I know there's an assistant coach at Dunfermline Athletic Football Club. I'm not going to mention him by name, but if the grass is longer than half an inch at Petrevie, he bends my ear about it. And you know who I'm talking about, Jim. But plastic pitches are certainly more in vogue now than they were a few years ago. The technology has moved on. There's a lot of advantages in terms of being able to earn from a plastic pitch. You know, you can do things on the concerts and so on that you can't do on the normal grass pitch. All I can say is that our intention at the moment is to continue with East End Park as a grass pitch for the foreseeable future. We don't have the money to invest in a plastic pitch at the moment, and yes, we're thinking about it, but it's not number one on our list of thoughts.
Just in front there.
Okay, can someone on the panel briefly explain the club draw? There seems to be a bit of confusion. Is it still viable, or is it better the money goes to the Centenary club, direct to the club? Personally, I've stopped to 1750 because I've never seen an answer to it.
Thanks. Thanks, Raymond.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. You must have read my mind because I was just about to say this. There's actually 2 lotteries. There's the PARS lottery, which is actually finished 2 years ago. But I understand from speaking to Shirley at the club, there's still people who are paying into that, even though it finished 2 years ago, and they have been written to. So if anybody in this room is still contributing to the PARS lottery, that doesn't exist. So that's the first thing. The next thing is the PARS club draw, which was started 2 years ago. Now, we looked at all these revenue streams when we took over the club only a short 2 weeks ago. So we've had to act fast because obviously we wanted to launch the Centenary Club Lifeline tonight. I have to watch what I'm saying because we're still under a contract with PARS Club Draw until July. But our advice would be to you that it's not fit for purpose. So really what I would suggest is that anybody who's contributing to PARS Club Draw stops contributing now and instead contributes to the Centenary Club Lifeline, because that way the money will be properly put into the football club. Because I'm not going to go into the mechanics of how that deal was done before, but it's not of any benefit to the football club. Hardly any money comes into the football club, and there's about 250 people, I think, who are still contributing to PARS Club Draw, including me up until 2 weeks ago. So I think there's quite a few people at the top here who are still contributing, so we all need to stop that.
That's clear enough, I think.
Sorry, I'll just rephrase the statement Ross has made. We all need to stop doing that and fill in a form for the Centenary Club Lifeline.
Ideally, yeah. There's another one over here, I think. We'll come down the front here. Yeah, we'll come to you in a minute, sir. Cheers.
Hi, Andy Hislop. We've briefly had an explanation of the structure of the company and relating to the stadium. What about the football club itself? Can we have a quick recap on what the company is? It's not a PLC, obviously. there was a mention in the slides about shareholders. How's that going to happen going forward? And what kind of plans do we have for the next 2 or 3 years?
Thank you. Yeah, the Pars United Limited, as it still is technically, was the company that was put together as the bidding vehicle to buy the 94% of Dunfermline Athletic Football Club that the administrators had. Pars United Limited is in the process of converting to a community interest company, and that should go through within the next few weeks. That company has some 50 shareholders, the largest of which is Pars Supporters Trust. We raised those funds. We had to set a de minimis figure for investors, who we called patrons, of £5,000. That's for reasons relating to raising money by a company and the distribution of a prospectus. You have to either publish a very detailed prospectus of what the company's about, which we had neither the time nor the money to put together, or you can approach people who can self-certify that they are either high net worth individuals, and that's a defined term, or are sophisticated investors, i.e. they're people who have invested in unlisted companies before and they know all the risks involved in doing that. So we were restricted to approaching those two classes of person to raise the money that we needed to buy Dunfermline Athletic. Now that we've done that, the concern we had and the law that we were dealing with said that you cannot solicit investment from other than the types of person I've just described. Going forward, so long as we don't solicit an investment from other people, but instead, if other people choose to come to us and say, we've seen what Pars United has done, we've seen what Dunfermline Athletic's doing, I wouldn't mind being part of that. I'd like to subscribe for some shares as well, please. Then we can lower the bar and we can have a conversation with those people. And if they wanted to come along with, say, £1,000, which was the figure that was mentioned earlier, we can take them on board as shareholders going forward, because at that point, we will not have solicited an investment from them. They will have come to us. So we are hopeful that, as things go from where they are to greater success, that other people will come along and say either that the 5,000 hurdle was too high for them, but they would like, nevertheless, to be a shareholder, or because they like the story that we've got to tell, and will become shareholders, thereby increasing the capital available to Pars United, which would feed straight down to the footballing side.
Thanks, Ian. Good answer.
Could I also add, we went through earlier the structure behind the stadium as well. I mean, there's a number of people who have come forward to fund the stadium, as Ian explained, but that's not a closed shop. So again, if anybody is interested in having a stake in East End Park, then again, we're open to discussions. We are tied to a large extent with confidentiality agreements, but there's a number of people who put the money forward to buy the stadium purely on a bridging basis, and they would like to dilute that. So if anybody's interested in taking a stake in the stadium, then please let anybody in the board know. But what I would say is we set up a 3-for-1 funding mechanism where if somebody's putting £3 into the stadium, where obviously there's a return through the rent, then they have to put at least £1 into the football club, so the football club continues to be capitalised as well. So again, we're looking for new investment in the football club, but we're also looking for other people to come forward in terms of the stadium, which will dilute the people that have already funded it.
Cheers, Ross. Mikey, gentleman up the back there.
Hi, Jason. Paul Reddy. It's maybe a question for Drew at the end, as in terms of the Pars Sports Trust. If this is the officially sanctioned fans money-raising vehicle for the club, where does that leave the PST? I think there was an expectation maybe with some fans that the lion's share of the fundraising would go via the PST, and gradually in turn that would maybe increase the shareholding of the grassroots fans. in that respect. Is this going to be an alternative to membership of the PST, or is it going to be complementing that? How does the PST see this?
The PST are very much in support of any mechanism that means that the football club is going to benefit in the long term. You're absolutely right. The PST played a huge part in getting us to where we've got today with the Buy the Pars campaign, with the six-figure sum that was raised through the Buy the Pars campaign administered by the PST. I don't know where we would have been. So, and as a result, the PST has become, as I think it was Ross mentioned earlier, the PST is the single largest shareholder in the football club, and that has been recognised. If anybody has taken the time to look at the structure of the various companies, they'll see that the PST chair, Margaret Ross, is on the interim board. As Bob mentioned earlier, I'm on the board of the property company that now owns East End Park. Through the Buy the Pars campaign, we've now got a membership, because whoever donated money had to become a member. That's just an inherent part of our rules. We've now got a membership of somewhere around 800 people, and those 800 people are effectively shareholders in the PST, which in turn has a voice within the football club. We'll continue to look to retain those members and add to that membership if we can on an annual basis, because that's what our annual subs is always for, always has been for. £20 a year gets you a membership of the PST. That gives you a vote and it gives you a voice, and it gives us the opportunity to invest more money in the football club. And the more we do that, the bigger voice we get and the bigger share we get. But let's not forget that the end game here is the well-being of Dunfermline Athletic. And if that comes from signing up to the Centenary Club Lifeline, or whether it comes from being a member of the Par Supporters Trust, it matters not a jot. The important thing is that we sustain this club and we keep the Pars, because that's what we've fought almost a year. Almost a year it's taken us to get to this point, from when things started to become clear that all was not well. We don't want to have gone through that journey to falter now, and we need as much support as we can get.
Cheers, Drew. But ideally, do both in the ideal world. Right, that's 9:15, folks. Any other question, Neil? You got one there?
It was just to do with the share issue that happened a long time ago under the old regime, and are the shares that were issued at that time, are they still valid, and if they are, what part do they play in the structure of the club?
Yeah, those shares are still valid. I mentioned earlier that Pars United bought 94% of DAFC, which was the 94% held by BDO. The other 6% is held by several hundred people who acquired shares in a share issue. I think around about £20 a share. There were some issued at £8 a share. We could have swept those shares up. The law allows us, when you buy more than 90% of a company, you can force the other outstanding people who are usually dead and missing and just can't be contacted. You can force them to come through, and that gives you 100% of the company. We decided that that wouldn't be right, because the people who own the other 6%, they don't own it for financial reasons. They own it because they wanted to be shareholders in Dunfermline Athletic, and we didn't see any benefit in depriving of that. So the shares that anyone has in Dunfermline Athletic Football Club Limited are still valid shares. They will be invited to the football club's AGM in the usual way. But the fact of the matter is, there is one very, very dominant shareholder, which is Pars United with its 94%.
Okay, thanks, Ian. One gentleman down the front. If we get any other questions, we'll just try and get them in the next couple of minutes. I know Kenny McLachlan's sitting over there. He spoke to me at half-time there. Kenny's raised a phenomenal amount of money in the last few months himself. Things you can eat, things you can drink, things you can wear, you name it, Kenny will sell you it. His next venture is the Pars Beer, which is being launched on Friday night, East End Park, 7:30. A beautiful little gift pack of 3 beers, which looks great. I think he's already sold the first batch of 500 on pre-order, so people can collect them on Friday night, as well as onesies and retro tops and you name it. If you've got any money in your wallet, Kenny will be more than happy to make you part with that. But sorry, that was just a wee advert on behalf of Kenny there. Next question, just down here, thanks.
Thank you, Fraser Gow. Can I just say, first of all, that I'm hugely encouraged by the articulate responses to all the questions so far tonight. I think it sets about building the sort of trust that the wider support would want to have in the board looking after the football club. And that's very encouraging. The other thing I think that I hope and I believe from the way things have been handled tonight, there will have to be reviews, I believe, of the internal administration of the club in terms of its public face. I can give a very simple example of that from one of my experiences today, and that was in trying to contact the ticket office, which has published ours, and I know that manning the ticket office will not be all that easy in the current climate. But when you get through to an answer machine and then no response, it doesn't present much of a face of efficiency. And efficiency is what will encourage others to think the club is being well run, and I think that's quite important from a PR point of view. So I'm just hoping that that will be reviewed so that, in fact, that efficiency I'm talking about can be displayed to the general public.
Fair point. David?
Absolutely fair point. We have a problem with the telephone system. We don't know what it is. Calls aren't being diverted. We're talking to our supplier and we'll get it fixed. It really is. It's not an administrative problem, it's a technical problem. Though interestingly, our supplier isn't always as helpful as he might be. And I wonder why that would be.
Jace, can I...
I'm just going to say if there are any other final questions. I can't see any hands up. One last question there in the middle before we wrap things up. Who's in the centre aisle?
This is a question for Jim Jeffries. I'm wondering how realistic is it to try and replicate the success of 1985 to 87 and win successive promotions? Is it completely unrealistic? Or with the backing of the Centenary Club and all the fans, could we actually do it?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Certainly. Sorry if I wasn't coming across clearly enough. I'll talk a bit louder. I've been accused of not talking loudly enough in the past, funnily enough. How realistic, Jim, is it for us to win successive promotions from here on, as we did in 1995?
It's a tough question, but well, what we have to do is basically, you know, as I said earlier on tonight, that we've chosen a certain pathway to go down, and you've got to, as they always say, walk before you can run. So we've started something out, building something. These teams, I think the gentleman earlier on with one of the early questions about trying to keep these players together is a big key to doing that, and that's something we'll endeavour to do, because you can see with this young side at the moment, as I've said earlier, they make a lot of mistakes. It's not through lack of effort or desire, but what they will do, they've got they will learn, they will get better, and if you ask me that question at this time next year, I think it'll answer itself that it's very realistic that they could go on. And, you know, we know what football's like. It'll not be the same. There'll be wee changes here, there, all with a case to try and improve and to make what you're trying to find out happen. And I think, you know, once we get established with the club off the park, which is now in its infancy, and it'll go from strength to strength, I'm sure of that. So will the playing side. And we'll do everything we can to
to make sure that when we're ready, and I've said the long-term aim is to get back, as I said, as quick as possible to being in the top division, but with a team that we know is not going to, just be there to come right back down again. It's to be there and stay there and build the club up. And as I said, I can't give you a time on that, but I'll tell you what, I can guarantee you there'll be a big effort to try and do it.
Brilliant, Jim. Thank you. Thanks very much, folks. Right, I think that's it for the panel. I think Bob's just going to say a few closing words. Thank you.
Can I just say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming along tonight. Thanks for all your questions. The question regarding not being able to get through to the ticket office, that is the feedback that we do need. We do need to understand what you're experiencing as a customer of Dunfermline Athletic Football Club. I know you're here as supporters and you put up an awful lot of supporters, but let's be honest about it. We need to make the match day experience far better than it is so we can attract a lot more people. So feedback is important and we welcome it. I was very pleased that David was able to give a response there about the technical issues that we're facing on the phone, and I can concur with him. I was on the phone to the lady in the office today and was cut off 3 times. I don't think it was because I was boring her, to be entirely honest, but I'm not sure. But the one thing I would say, Dunfermline Athletic Football Club needs effective management, right? We can talk about this all we want, but at the end of the day, we need to effectively manage the football club. We've got a great group of people, excuse me, a great group of people who are trying their best. We need more people to, we need more people to step up to the plate. There's a lot to be done, but we can do it. This is something that is very special. What we have done to get to this stage is absolutely fantastic. What we've done to get to this stage is absolutely fantastic, folks. And it's a testimony to your love of your football club. To go to the next stage, we need to redouble our efforts. We need to get more people wanting to be part of the Dunfermline Athletic Football Club experience, who want to be part of something really special. So if you've got people out there who who used to be regular attenders, but for one reason or other aren't coming to the matches now, tell them about how wonderful it is. I'm told that last weekend at Stranraer, I didn't see it myself, I'm probably glad I didn't, but in probably the worst rainstorm in history, some of our fans were doing a conga, Sons t-shirts at one point. And I've heard from Mikey that it was one of the best away games experiences he's had in recent years. So the feel-good factor is coming back to the club. This man's created a lot. John and his guys have created a lot. You've created a lot. But let's go on from here, guys. We can't stop now. We're only at the bottom rung of a very long ladder. But I've said it before. Knowing how good you are, knowing what you've got up here on the platform, there's no doubt in my mind, we can do it. We will be back at the top of Scottish football within the next 4 or 5 years, and we'll be there to stay. We'll not be up there and coming shuttling back down. We'll be up there to stay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all your efforts, but I have to say this to you. Go out there and work harder for your football club. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everybody, for coming along tonight. Thanks to everybody on the panel, Drew, Kip, Ian, Jim, Bob, Leash, Ross and David. Thanks, everybody, for coming along. One other thing I forgot to promote, I'm hosting it myself, 7th of November at the Kingdom Suite at East End Park. We're having a Centenary Club Pars United quiz. Let's fill the place. Let's buy lots of beers over the bar and let's have a full turnout for the quiz night on the 7th. Thanks very much for everybody coming along tonight. All the best.